Each week, Sky News speaks to hundreds of people.
People from all walks of life.
Presidents.
Prime ministers.
Business leaders.
Celebrities.
Ordinary people with extraordinary stories to tell.
Here are some of the stories they've told us over the last year.
We don't have to live with being raped when we think we're going to a business meeting.
Do you feel you've got a reputation that is feared?
No. I'm as soft as wool.
I was hoping that my house wasn't going to get destroyed, but I guess God had other plans.
My message to President Trump, these are children, and we need to take action.
We've been witnessing it for actually decades, but it's getting worse and it's accelerating.
Having a career this long and not having to do panto, it's incredible.
Yes.
Okay, good. Sky News.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Congratulations on the purchase.
Harvey Weinstein is the mogul who once ruled Hollywood. In 2011, Melissa Thompson visited his offices here in New York to pitch him a business idea for her tech startup company. As part of the demo, the then 28-year-old recorded what happened. A few hours later, she says Weinstein raped her in a hotel room. Melissa agreed to talk to me about that video.
Hello, Melissa Thompson.
Hello, Harvey Weinstein.
How are you?
Happy New Year. I was thinking, okay, he's hugging me, what do I do now? I was sensing I have to be a little bit more vigilant of this situation than I originally thought. Every time that he towed the line of being inappropriate enough where I may have said something, he could sense it, and he pulled back and he changed the dynamic again. And so he's going from almost pulling a trigger on using this platform to then he would put his hand up under the table, up my dress. I was trying to save face a bit. At first I was trying to kind of manage the situation. There was a combination of confidence and naivety that led me to, this dynamic that we see now. I tried to keep it on script in terms of pitching him the product, but
He was still touching you on the shoulder.
He was still touching me on the shoulder.
What's running through your head as that's happening?
What do I do? How did I get myself here? I lost my train of thought, and I was trying so hard to gain back my own mental footing. At some point, his whole affect changed, and he looked like a predator. His eyes became dark.
What would you say to someone who might watch that and say, well, Melissa was flirting with him? Is that what you see when you watch it?
It was more tricky than I think it's possible to judge from looking at it. I worked on Wall Street before I went to business school, and I worked in an environment that was heavily male-dominated. I thought I could handle it. I had never met anyone that I couldn't handle until Harvey Weinstein. Had people been more vocal and not said, yeah, that's Harvey, or yeah, we have to live with that. You don't. We don't have to live with things that are illegal and abusive, and we don't have to live with being raped when we think we're going to a business meeting.
Weinstein denies all non-consensual sexual contact. In a statement, Harvey Weinstein's lawyer Benjamin Brafman said, several respected journalists and trustworthy individuals have seen the entire video. The video, when viewed in its entirety, in context and not in select excerpts, demonstrates that there is nothing forceful but casual, if not awkward, flirting from both parties. Anything short of that is intended to make Mr. Weinstein appear inappropriate and even exploitative. It was produced by Ms. Thompson to bolster her position in a civil lawsuit seeking money. This is a further attempt to publicly disgrace Mr. Weinstein for financial gain, and we will not stand for it. Facts do matter.
It started when a father and daughter were taken ill in a small English city. It ended as a major diplomatic incident between the West and Russia. Sergei and Yulia Skripal survived being poisoned with the chemical weapon Novichok. Dawn Sturgess was not so lucky. She died after coming into contact with it. Her partner, Charlie Rowley, was also poisoned but survived. He spoke to me about it.
Give me a sense of how you're feeling now.
Well, horrified, shocked. The whole ordeal. I just can't believe it's happened.
Has your thought process changed since you've been out, coming to terms with what's happened?
Not really. I can't process it really.
How are you physically now?
Physically getting stronger, mentally and physically. Yeah, just day by day, taking it step by step. It's just quite a lot to take in, you know. Yeah, I feel terrible. With Dawn's parents, you know, and his children, what they're going to go through.
How are you coping with the death of Dawn?
Yeah, it's a struggle. She's a really lovely person, lovely, caring, do anything for anyone. We had plans. We was hoping to have a future together. She was moving to the area in Amesbury very soon.
Russia's intelligence service, the GRU, was blamed for the Salisbury attack. I asked the former head of MI6 for his assessment of the threat that Russia poses.
Well, it does look like a rather incompetent operation, and an operation which, you know, was probably not sufficiently well prepared if they had a specific objective. Yes, I mean, it damages their reputation, but you know, the GRU is a big, powerful, well-funded organisation, and you know, we shouldn't underestimate the problems that they can still cause, even when they've had a significant setback.
And of course, what it does also do is underline the threat to the UK from Russia. Do you think that more needs to be done to combat that threat from Russia? Because it does feel as if, you know, little has changed, really.
We're no longer in the Cold War, and I don't see that the threat that Russia presents now is equivalent to the situation that we had during the Cold War. However, Russian espionage, Soviet espionage has never stopped. It's deeply embedded in Russia's DNA. Russia historically has always used assassination as a weapon. It's part of the Russian political DNA. It's a rather terrible thing to say, but it's a violent country and they tend to kill each other.
Lava from the Kilauea volcano erupting on Hawaii's Big Island is exploding as it pours into the ocean, shooting out poisonous gases and fragments of rock. Inland, molten rock is burning through jungle and destroying everything in its path. That includes the homes of some of the island's residents.
Are you ready to go?
I'm ready. I have already evacuated everything. I just came down to say goodbye to my neighborhood one last time. When you know everybody on this road, you're like a family, you know, and just some devastating.
Did you expect it to ever get this bad?
No, not really. I didn't know what to expect, but I was hoping that my house wasn't going to get destroyed, but I guess God had other plans.
We're going back quickly now because the fish is opening up. Let's go.
It is tragic, and in another way, it's really beautiful because it's absolute destruction and creation at the same time.
How many of you? 13. Brilliant.
It was a rescue operation which inspired the world. Divers navigating narrow tunnels to free 12 boys and their football coach trapped in a flooded cave in Thailand.
Oh man, he's still waiting for his free breather, yeah?
The group was stranded underground for nearly 3 weeks, during which time I spoke to some of their friends and families.
ก็รู้สึกว่า
ก็อุ่นใจมานะเพราะว่าลูกเราได้อยู่กับเจ้าหน้าที่เขาดูแลลูกเราให้น้ำให้ข้าวกินนะครับแล้วก็ดีใจครับผมแต่มันยังไม่เต็มร้อยนะครับเต็มร้อยเขาให้ออกมาให้ได้
ก็คือเป็นห่วงเขามากค่ะเพราะเขาอายุน้อยที่สุดเขาเด็กกว่าเพื่อนอย่างเงี้ยค่ะเขาจะอยู่ได้ไหมก็กังวลแหละค่ะแต่ลึกๆก็เขาเป็นนักกีฬาเนาะก็คงแข็งแรงพอตัว
แต่ตอนนี้ก็โล่งใจขึ้นเยอะเลยครับเพราะว่าเจ้าหน้าที่เขาเจอเพื่อนแล้วครับก็อยากให้เพื่อนออกมานั่งกินข้าวด้วยกันหัวเราะด้วยกันครับ
ซ้อมหนักมากครับจะทำให้ร่างกายแข็งแรงครับเพราะซ้อมฝึกกล้ามหน้าท้องอะไรพวกนี้ครับเร่งไขมันเร่งให้เป็นก้อนเป็นซิกแพคประมาณนี้ครับจะอยู่ได้นานครับ
Zimbabwe's president-elect had promised free and fair elections that would show the world Zimbabwe had changed. The questions about its conduct and the display of violence that followed left many wondering if the man once called the crocodile could break from the corruption of the past.
Alex Crawford from Sky News.
In a democracy, people are allowed to say what they want. But when you look to practicality, then one must be objective. And it is true that the campaign was free until we reached elections, which again was conducted totally freely and peacefully.
What about the army? Because there's lots of rumours that you're not getting on with your vice president, the former army chief. And that
many people would want me and the vice president not to be in good books. Unfortunately, they would dream and dream. And it's not, no one can build a juror against dreams. Let those people continue to dream. Me and my brother are friends, not only now, but throughout the Liberation War.
But you feel you have control of
total control. If there's an area you think I'm not in control, can you tell me? So I correct it because I'm satisfied I am in full control of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces.
Your nickname is the crocodile, right? Which sounds scary. I mean, there are not many friendly crocodiles. Do you feel you've got a reputation that is feared? Do you...
No. I'm as soft as wool.
Nearly 200 countries have agreed rules for tackling climate change. It came at the end of a conference in Poland, which was addressed by Sir David Attenborough. I asked him for his thoughts about the risks to the planet.
That there are real people involved and that these are real issues. In the West, the comfortable West, and particularly the wealthier part of the comfortable West, you know, we're buffered from these things, and we may well say to one another, well, it doesn't really matter whether we live the light on, and it doesn't really matter whether we go on eating meat, because we're not affected. But in fact it does matter because it matters to the whole world, and there are the first people to feel the consequences, of course, are the poor, are those at the bottom of the heap, are those who are really vulnerable to what is happening in the climate. And that's why the whole world together should actually act on their behalf.
There used to be said that it would be our children or our grandchildren even who would feel the effects of climate change. Do you get the sense now from what you're seeing that it's our generation that is already beginning to see the planet change?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, the forest fires, the desertification in Africa, of course, we've been actually witnessing it, had we been aware of it, for actually decades. But it's getting worse and it's accelerating. That's why something has to be done.
What a year for the royals. A new prince, a 70th birthday.
Well, it's rather like indigestion. Many happy returns are not quite the same thing as you get older.
Overseas tours, a handover of responsibilities, plus not one but 2 royal weddings, and a new star attraction.
We enjoyed talking, we had lots in common, and because we had an instant connection, that I said earlier, we got on really well, and we did develop a friendship. Megan and I were at lunch, and she was really excited that day at lunch, and I said to her, she was in London, And I said to her, "You look fantastic, Megan. What's going on in your life? You seem excited." And she said, "Well, yes, I have a date tonight." And I said, "Really? With who? Do I know him?" And she said, "Yes, I'm sure you'll know him. I'm meeting Prince Harry." And in a whisper, she sort of said, and I said, "Who?" And she said, "Prince Harry. I'm meeting Prince Harry tonight." And I said, "Prince Harry?" And we had a discussion, and I said to him, "My God, how wonderful, and how exciting, and do you know what you're getting yourself into?" And we discussed it, and we had, continued with the conversation over lunch, and so that was it. And I knew, of course, knowing Meghan, I knew that Harry would be fascinated with her.
From the hills of Hollywood to the streets of Soho, we've heard from some of the world's best-known stars, award-winning actors, the biggest names in music, and global icons.
Tell me about this award. What does it mean to you?
It means everything to me. It's not only is it the British Academy, but to be back in my hometown and win this, and to win it for playing the quintessential British icon, it's a beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
It was really beyond fun. I've never been on a movie that had less tension, and I wasn't sure what the reason was, except Al is such a great director and everyone was so friendly.
I read that you were nervous initially on that first day of set. Why?
Absolutely, because that's who I am.
Whatever I said, whatever I did, I didn't mean it. I just want you back for good.
1989, we all stood in a room and looked at one another and thought, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah. Sometimes it feels like 30 years, sometimes it feels like 50, and then other times it just feels like seconds.
Yesterday, yeah.
But it makes me really proud being in the entertainment industry like we are, and having a career this long and not having to do panto. It's incredible.
Yet.
Yet. There's always a yet.
There's time. There's definitely time.
Not that we wouldn't do panto.
No.
Somebody offered us.
It's not below me. I just don't have to do it yet.
Yeah.
So are you going back and watching loads of old footage? Because some of them are classics, aren't they? I mean, some of the moves that you busted, especially you, Gareth.
Thanks.
Pointless.
Really
pointless.
special.
Really pointless.
Wasted.
We could have cut out at least 75% of everything. But the thing is, because of that, that's why people come to the show. We're known, I say we, you and us are known for putting on massive shows. It's the dedication that people want and people see and the entertainment value. That being said, I think we could have done 75% less moving and had a few more days off. And a bit more sleep.
But you came back for good.
I just felt in some small way, if we could just bring them back just once more, just to lay them on the ground of this country once more, is something really worth doing. It was just about physicalising that number and creating a figure for every one of those names. And it was so important that it was actually, each figure is associated with a name. As I'd make a figure, it would be crossed off a great volumes of books I've got. And that was so vitally important that these weren't just a collection of images. They are actually representing an individual.
Tell me, where are we?
Well, this is where I store some of the figures, and this is where I've worked for several years down here, which is it's quite a place. It really is. It's amazing to be in their company. It's an odd thing to say, But as a sense of perspective, it's like nothing else. I always read the name aloud when I cross it off. I always read the name aloud, which is important, just for one more time.
It's very overwhelming being in here.
Yeah, it gets me every time.
This was a world war. It's enough to say it was a world war. For anyone, you can't get your head around that. You just cannot get your head around the degree of suffering that went on. So the only thing I think is to tell stories, personal stories. Now they can be true, they can be about your great uncle, your great great grandfather, or you can do what I do, is you base it on truth and then you take it a stage further and you make fiction of it, and there's a different kind of truth in fiction. And what's good about that is the child can then identify with a soldier, because otherwise all those soldiers out there now, and they're all gone. Anyone who knows them or knew them is gone as well. So effectively they're all unknown soldiers now. They're all unknown soldiers. So the only way to get to know one is to know a story.
What does the poppy mean to you?
My uncle Peter was killed at age 21 in the RAF in the Second World War. So to me he was a photograph on a mantelpiece and nothing more. But you know when you're young and you see your mother cry, well, you don't forget it. And my mother was not a crying woman generally at all, but on November the 11th and on Uncle Peter's birthday, she was beside herself with grief, and it was like that till the end of her life.
We're going to do a huge sand painting of one of the characters, and on Folkestone Beach it will be Wilfred Owen. On other beaches it will be other people who have a connection with a community near them. At low tide the sand will be rouged into a portrait, and it's extraordinary what happens. You've no idea what you're doing as you're doing it, and then when you get up on a cliff top or a drone camera or a helicopter, you can see this beautiful image of a person who stood on these beaches, if you like. And obviously when the tide returns it washes them away. And is that a final goodbye? I don't know. It's 100 years. It's a question for the country to ask. It seems like a moment that you could stop celebrating the First World War. That was my opinion certainly when I began this process. It's not my opinion now.
Growing humanitarian disaster is unfolding in Indonesia tonight as the scale of Friday's earthquake becomes clear.
Suryanti's husband is dead. She brings us back to Petobo, the place that used to be her home. Where the village once stood is now a muddy wasteland.
So the house is here? And all houses here?
Yeah.
Hundreds of people?
Sakit hatiku. Tidak ada rumah. Pulang bapaknya kantor, goyang tanah, langsung tiba-tiba ada lumpur, lari, semua keluar orang. Iya, jadi tidak ada diselamatkan. Biar baju dalam badan saja bajunya, tidak ada didapat biar satu lembar apa-apa pun tidak. Ini sudah ada apa-apa hancur, suami tidak ada, rumah tidak ada. Iya, tinggal saya berdua dengan anak saya.
This community used to contain some of the most glamorous mansions in America. You look around now and it is all just smoke and ash. A lot of normal people live here as well.
It's a tragedy.
I was looking all around across the way, the house is going up. Right down below me, a house is going up. My aunt's house, who lives a couple doors down, her house, been there since the 50s, burnt down to the ground. And I always swore I'd never leave, but when that house across the street was going up, it was time. And it was a rough night.
Seen flames coming up. It was really scary. And you know, there's 5 kids in the car, and a 1-year-old that's screaming and crying because he doesn't want to be in a car seat, and other kids going, "Are we okay?" And I'm just trying to like act like, yeah, we're fine. But I'm like wondering if we're gonna die.
There's a lot of old people up there that didn't have time, that wouldn't even know. I mean, this is 6:30 in the morning. It's started by 8:30. It's engulfing paradise. These people weren't even awake yet, you know?
Yeah.
And they're back in the woods, and, you know, I fear the worst for them because nobody would know. So, you know, it's a tragedy.
There's a lot of mass casualty. It's sad. It's very sad. We're trying to get people out of here, and we're stuck. There's nothing. We were at gridlock, and cars ain't moving, and it's the worst feeling ever. These people aren't getting out, and traffic's not moving. It's hard.
Yeah.
So it's very devastating.
Brexit means
Brexit. Brexit.
Brexit.
Brexit. Brexit.
Brexit.
Brexit.
Brexit means Brexit.
It's not often that you get to interview the leader of one of the two main political parties, but in November I spoke to both of them on the same day.
And I am interested in the impact it's had on you personally, because some of the language we've heard, some of the anonymous briefings in recent weeks have been, frankly, pretty horrific. I mean, we've heard talk of killing zones, of nooses, of assassinations. I mean, how does that make you feel?
Well, first of all, I think all of us in politics have a responsibility to make sure that when we talk about things, we do so responsibly and we think about the sort of terminology and the language that we're using. But look, it doesn't distract me from the main task at hand, and that's why I come back to this. Well, look, politics is a tough business, and I've been in it a long time.
Do you feel sorry for the Prime Minister?
Well, politics is full of lots of thrills and spills. There is quite a big difference between Labour and Conservative parties in that Labour is largely a member-led organisation, and my mandate came from party members, and I appealed to them in 2016 and gained an increased level of support.
Sorry for her?
I don't do personal attacks and personal abuse, and you notice I've said nothing personal in criticism. I do understand what people go through, and I understand all of that, but I do also understand the responsibility of Parliament and government to deliver for the people that have put us there in the first place.
President Juncker, a quick word for Sky News. Give us your reflection.
I was watching Sky News during 3 hours yesterday. I am very sad today because seeing the United Kingdom, which is not something less than important, seeing the United Kingdom leave the European Union is a moment of sadness. It's not a moment of celebration.
If you were a British citizen watching this now this morning, would you tell them that this is a good deal, that there is nothing else on offer?
This is the best deal we could have achieved, but if I was a British citizen, I would be deeply sad when imagining the life of my grandchildren.
Every morning, Sunrise starts your day with the top stories.
Expert analysis, informed conversation, incisive debate, and Basil, good morning.
Neil, you concentrate. Don't let us down.
Crikey, it's
Crikey,
us! Yes, let's go. Oh no, that was a terrible high five. Got to stop. Ready?
Let's go.
We grew up with you. That's why it's so exciting to have you here in the flesh, in the studio. I can't believe we have Basil Brush
Well, the funny thing
here
is...
with us. But how do you keep yourself looking so young and fit and
looking
healthy?
so young,
Do you work out?
Well, anybody who thinks I've had a facelift are talking out the Botox. Boom, boom! And I do work out every day. I just sit there and work out when I'm going to have me breakfast, and I've seen what you've got in your Sky Canteen, and it's fantastic!
What is the chess version of Armageddon that we could see today, Mel?
So what happens is that if they draw their games played at 25 minutes each and they get an extra 10 seconds every time they move. This is the Ry Lopez, by the way. This man definitely has played before. Goodness me.
I only know that far.
Okay. Then...
Oh, and I've touched it as well, so there you go.
Yep, press your clock, you run out of time.
The nerves of live TV.
If those games are still drawn at 25 minutes per move, then they go to 5 minutes each, which is what we've got right now. If that fails, if those games are still a draw, if it's still level, then we play Armageddon. Now, in Armageddon, white gets 5 minutes, black gets 4 minutes, but white has to win. So no, if the game's a draw, black wins. So there's got to be a result in the Armageddon game. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to take Neil's queen. I'm sorry.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I think we can maybe re-rack and start again.
And how long did that take you? How long did that take you?
That would have been about 15 moves.
Gotta say, Robert, you're a chip off the old block.
Oh,
you just you look like you're scared.
Oh, very much so. Just
every day more and more. I remember I was going through some old photos and I got a photograph out and said, what do you think of this? And he goes, it's a photo of me. No, it's not. It's a young dad photo.
Yeah, What's interesting, though, is that I mean, obviously we knew what Steve did and his passion for nature. What we didn't realise at the time necessarily was how that was a family-wide sort of venture.
Yes. No, he was definitely larger than life, and we're very proud to be carrying on with what he started.
It's true, and what's so special is that to everyone, Dad was the ultimate wildlife warrior, but to us, he was the greatest dad, and to be able to carry on in his footsteps and make sure that his legacy lives on forever is such a blessing.
I'm 100% addicted to my phone. But I am, my mum is, my dad is, everyone around me is really addicted to their phones, whether you like to admit it or not. We're just so used to scrolling and filling that time up with our phone and our smartphones. But, you know, Instagram completely changed my life. Like, it allowed me to connect with millions of people. It allowed me to reach people all over the world with my mission, which is to inspire you to cook a healthy recipe or do a workout. So I think if I started today, though, with the same kind of motivation, the same videos, I wouldn't have the success, because when I started, it was like just starting up, not many people were doing it, whereas now there's so many people doing recipes and fitness and online plans that I think I had a good idea at the right time, so I got lucky with the timing.
After decades of hostility between their countries came a meeting which shocked the world. US President Donald Trump holding talks with North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. But behind the pomp and ceremony are real people with real lives. I spoke to two sisters who defected from North Korea to the south. They told of the challenges they faced, and for their own protection, chose to remain anonymous.
What happened to people who opposed the regime?
반항하는 사람은 순간에 없어져요. 저희는 가다가 잡히면 지향 먹고 죽으려고 됐어요. 예, 차라리 잡혀서 검은 받고 뭐 거청시범 수용소 같은데 그런 데 가느니 차라리 잡히자마자 자살하려고. 평화가 진짜 오면 좋겠는데 간절히 바라는데 혹시 미국에서 이용당할까 봐 조금 걱정이. 그러다가 괜히 더.
So, did you ever think you'd be riding the subway in Seoul?
서울에서 전철 타고 돌아다니실 거라고 생각하셨는지? 전철은 생각 못했어요. 북한에서 전철은 타기가 얼마 쉽지 않거든요. 증명서 내고.
Can you wear what you want in North Korea? Is it controlled?
You're not allowed to wear jeans. You're not allowed to wear tight pants. They've never seen anything like this.
So my clothes would be totally out.
혹시 이렇게 입어도 돼요? 우린 괜찮아요. Top is okay.
On the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, teenager Nicholas Cruz walked into his former school in Florida and shot 17 people dead. In the aftermath, I travelled to Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland and spoke to David Hogg, a student now turned activist who survived the shooting.
We'd heard rumors from teachers and students that we were going to have a Code Red drill that was very realistic, and sadly this was not. But good thing we took it seriously, because if we didn't, we may have died.
And when did you realise that it was not the drill that you thought it was?
We realised this was not a drill when we actually started seeing the headlines on our phones, because everybody was looking it up. And when we started seeing that, that's when I decided to start recording, because I didn't know whether or not I would make it out of it, or whether or not any of us would. But I knew if I didn't, what would survive was the voices of the people that I interviewed. And I asked them how they felt in that situation, because I knew that I never wanted anybody to go through this again. And nobody should ever, especially a high schooler, anyone, no one should ever have to go through something like this. And what I asked them was, how do you feel? So that if we died, our voices would echo on.
Do you think there is a surge of determination now amongst young people here to get something done?
I certainly hope so, but if that's only here, it's not going to be enough. What we need is young individuals out there, and we need the entire country of America to start getting out and being politically active. This is a country run by popular sovereignty, and with that, the people have the most power. But when the people don't say what they want, and when they don't make their voices heard, the government becomes just an overseer, and it starts abusing its power. And that's what we're really seeing here, because politicians can make all the promises they want, and they can give all their condolences. But at what point do we say that's not enough, and we call for action? I think this is that point, because
We've seen far too many of these mass shootings. These are children. My message to President Trump would be, acknowledge this. Don't let this be another mass shooting. This is an event that needs to be a turning point, and it's an event that nobody should ever have to go through. You have children yourself, sir. Realize the true gravity of the situation. These are children, and we need to take action.
What a year in sport. A better-than-expected Russia World Cup for England, excitement in rugby, success in cricket, a memorable Winter Olympics and inspiring stories from a host of other sports. In a moment, we'll hear from boxing champion Anthony Joshua and from a retiring England captain. And not one, but two British winners of the Tour de France. But first, the inspiring story of Billy Monger, the teenage racing driver who lost his legs in a crash in 2017, but is back behind the wheel.
I was racing in British F4, the second round of the championship at Donington Park, and unfortunately had an accident. A stationary car spun off up ahead on the road ahead, and I had two other cars in front of me that I was battling for position with. And then as they saw the car last minute and dived out of the way, I was sort of just presented with this car in front of me that I hit at about 120 miles an hour, and yeah, that was kind of it.
Do you remember, what's the next thing you remember?
So I was awake in the car after the accident, so I remember sort of the doctors being around me and kind of the whole process of me being put to sleep and stuff like that. And then I can't remember sort of the next 3 days after the accident.
What had happened in that 3 days while you were in a coma, essentially?
Yeah, so yeah, essentially, because of the extent of the damage done to my legs, they had to amputate my right leg below the knee and my left leg just above the knee. So yeah, obviously, yeah, double amputations.
How was the journey back to even thinking about getting into a car again?
It's a long journey, and it's taken a while, although it feels like it was only a few weeks ago, the accident. Yeah, it's been tough, and obviously it's been a lot of hard work behind the scenes from me and all the guys at Carlin, the team that I'm running with in British F3 this year, to get the controls ready so I can actually compete. But yeah, I'm glad to say I'm back out.
I'm a clean athlete. I live right. I train hard. And that's the way the sport should be. It's fair competition that way. Do you know where I'm coming from? This game's hard enough as it is. You don't want no drug cheats competing with you because it's tough enough as it is. So, yeah, I've been for 8 years now living a clean lifestyle, you know, so I think the rest of the sport should kind of follow suit. And a lot of guys do, don't get me wrong, I'm still around, you know, this system, this amateur background where they're very professional, very regimented. The guys who don't do it, they just need to tighten up with their team a bit, in my opinion.
It is a dream. It's, I honestly didn't even expect it. Every day is a bonus. Like, I really meant it when I said, after winning on Alpe d'Huez, like 2 mountain stages back to back, that's just, well, it's just insane. Like, it doesn't happen, you know? It's like, so anything after that is a bonus.
For me, each time it's just been this overwhelming emotion when you roll onto Champs-Élysées and it's just absolutely just packed. The jets fly over and it's just this incredible. Also, what it signifies, the end of such a tough battle to get there, and rolling in yellow is an extremely special feeling.
Just to top it off, obviously with a score here was just like incredible. Like, sometimes dreams do come true, and I suppose today on a purely selfish thing, and then even just fielding it short leg, you know, with the crowd singing the Barmy Army song, it's just, you know, it's why you play sport, I suppose, occasionally for those little selfish moments, and that was very special.
It's coming up! It's coming up! It's coming! Football's coming up! It's coming up! It's coming up! It's coming! Football's coming up!
It's frightening. You could be his big brother, but you're not actually Gareth Southgate. I think everybody will have worked out now. Who are you, and why are you dressed like Gareth Southgate?
Well, my name's Neil Rowe. I'm from Surrey. I'm just a regular fan for England. This is my 5th World Cup supporting the boys. People have been telling me for about 20 years I'm a bit of a Gareth Southgate lookalike, and now he's got this dapper look. I thought, well, I'll pop down my local department store and get the waistcoat and see what happens.
And of course, when it first started, you were Gareth Southgate who missed a penalty. Now you're Gareth Southgate who's got us further in the World Cup than anybody else for 30 years.
It's amazing how the wheel has turned, the positivity has changed. He's such an outward, confident-looking guy, and that's lifted the whole spirit of the nation. And you're right, it was a negative, now it's definitely a big positive.
Families of people who are on board a Malaysian airliner which went missing 4 years ago say they're frustrated an investigation into the disappearance has revealed nothing new. Calvin Shim's wife Christine Tan was a member of the cabin crew.
It's difficult because, we have to live by not knowing, why has my wife gone missing, no answer, we don't even know where is the wreckage. I think it's, I just simply can't describe the difficulties.
What do you need to happen now to at least try and help ease some of that pain?
I need the government to proactively looking for clues and continue the search.
Many people might have just thought it's too painful for 4 years, we're not getting any answers. What keeps you going?
We need closure. I can't even tell my children, what has happened to their mother. We can't even have a proper, ceremony or a proper place, for to remember, my children's mother. So that is really difficult,
What do Jacob Rees-Mogg, John Bon Jovi and Goldie Hawn all have in common? Well, they've all joined me for Kay Meets, where we delve a little deeper.
Oh, how are you, John? Nice to meet you. Have a seat. I'm Kay.
Hi, Kay.
How do you know when you've got a hit song? Do you immediately know?
I've missed the mark many times, and some for the better and some not, I mean, I walked out of the room and thought Living on a Prayer was okay. I said, yeah, it's okay. Maybe we give it to this soundtrack. That was, and I was laughed at. Richie looked at me and he said, "You're crazy," because it was so new, it was so different, it was such a unique song. It didn't sound like anything on the radio.
What makes you so successful? I think the most successful touring band ever.
Oh, I don't know that that's true. The Rolling Stones are the bar for everything. I hope someday they'll gracefully retire for one reason. At least I'll know where the end zone is. As long as they're performing it at such a high level in every way, selling tickets and performing as great as they do. They showed me where the end game is. But he's 20 years older than I am and still the best front man in the business.
I was told that doing an interview with you is like a therapy session as opposed to an interview.
Oh my God.
What do you think of that?
I don't know. That's a compliment, actually.
Does it offend you when people still sort of think of you as that sort of ditzy image?
No. If I can bring any joy to anyone, it might be the greatest gift I was given. I think it's a gift. I don't even know if it comes out of me, but I feel honored, I feel respectful of it, and there's nothing better than watching people laugh.
Jacob Rees-Mogg, thanks very much indeed for welcoming into your beautiful home. Do you want to be Prime Minister?
No. I
Why
like
not?
being the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset.
Which of your principles are you most prepared to compromise?
It's a really interesting question because it gets to the heart of politics. I think it's important to have principles, to set them out, to be clear to the electorate as to what they are, but to recognise that you cannot take your principles endlessly to their logical conclusion because you may end up doing harm at the end of the process.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Thank you very much, everybody. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Thank you,
This
Mr.
is the
President.
one that was nodding with every nice thing I said, so watch this question.
It's a habit of mine. Hannah Thomas-Peter from Sky
You're
News.
with who?
Hannah Thomas-Peter from Sky News.
Okay, good, Sky News.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Congratulations on the purchase.
Nothing to do with me.
I hope you benefited. Go ahead.
Are you at all concerned at the message that has been being sent to the women who are watching this when you use language like con job in allegations
I've used
of
much
sexual
worse
assault?
language in my life than con job. That's like probably the nicest phrase I've ever used. I mean, con job. It is. It's a con job. You know, confidence. It's a confidence job, but it's a con job by the Democrats. They know it.
What about the message that's being
They
sent
did the
to
same
women
thing
who
with
are
the
watching?
Russia investigation. They tried to convince people that I had something to do with Russia. There was no collusion. Think of it. I'm in Wisconsin. I'm in Michigan. I say, gee, we're not doing well. I won both those states. We're not doing well. Let me call the Russians to help. Does anybody really believe that? It's a con job.
To all the viewers of Sky News, happy Christmas and a happy New Year from us at Take That! Yeah.